Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. As I have mentioned, that this summer we are going to be talking with a lot of people with the World Series of Poker, a lot of people who have done great things, especially a lot of bracelet winners. Of course, we've already talked to Jeremy Osmus, who won officially the first bracelet that was given out in 2021. And we're talking live, right? Of course, they're online bracelets. But this gentleman, now he's a two-time bracelet winner. He won his first one in 2019 in a $2,500 no-limit hold'em. This one, a 10K Omaha Hi-Lo, 8 or better for over $317,000. Congratulations to Ari Engel. Ari, thanks for joining us here once again on the Bernard Lee Poker Show, my friend.
Thanks so much, Bernard. Thanks for having me on. And appreciate the nice words.
You are, you look ghosted out. I know you're in a car and it's all sunny, so no problem. People who are watching on YouTube, people who are listening podcast and on the radio, you won't even notice. But if you're watching on YouTube and Ari looks all ghosted out, don't worry about it. He's fine.
I can see myself. I do look really ghosted. I think that's the right word.
But hey, listen, you might look ghosted, but you have to be in a phenomenal mood winning such a prestigious event. I mean, every $10,000 event is a championship event. Omaha Hi-Lo, 8 or better. I mean, the best players, only 134 players were there playing. And what an accomplishment. Is this a game that you play very often?
Yes, I started playing Omaha Hi-Lo kind of like after I would finish my online tournament grind 10, 12 years ago, just a little bit afterwards. And then just over the years, I've ramped up my play in Omaha Hi-Lo. And that's the game I most enjoy. I enjoy it mainly in the pot limit variety, but yep. I also play limit. This was a limit tournament, and I do play that a fair amount also. I can't imagine many people have played more hands in the last, like during COVID time, of Omaha Hi-Lo than me.
Really? Wow.
I just sat and played Omaha Hi-Lo all day, every day. So yeah, I do enjoy it a lot. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm just saying,
right.
I played it a lot in recent times.
Right. And it is for those people who aren't, obviously this is a no limit world, so everyone only thinks that way, but this is a split game. High for low, it has to be 8 or better. If it's not 8 or better, then the high just scoops it. Ari, I'd love for my listeners, it's always such a great educational, we talk about strategy, et cetera, and being that this is a different game than no limit, I'd love for you to just kind of give, like, maybe let's say 3 things that players can really watch out for and or improve on, because I'm sure that this is a $10,000 event. I'm sure there were a few people who still maybe could have improved on their game, but if you're playing in a $1,500 event, I'm sure there's a lot of players who are making just very obvious mistakes. Could you give our listeners just a few things that they should just be wary of as they're trying to improve their Omaha Hi-Lo game?
Sure. One of the first things I would say, and this is true for any Omaha variety, so probably a lot, pot limit Omaha High only is more popular than Omaha Hi-Lo, and so this translates to both, is to play hands that are likely to hit the nuts. In hold'em, you have a king high flush. That's a really strong hand. You have a middle set. That's a really strong hand. In Omaha, given that everyone has 4 cards, especially at a full ring table, with 9 people, 4 cards, that means 36 of the cards have been dealt. You're much more likely to bump in, your second nut flush into a nut flush, your middle set into a top set. So you ideally are looking for nutted hands, and that will go in the low side also. So like a hand like ace deuce, which is generally going to be the best low starting hand, those have a lot of values. Hands like ace 4 and 3-4 and 4-5, maybe people that are newer to the game are going to look at those and, I have a decent low draw, but really you want to be looking to hit the nuts kind of thing. And the same thing will happen not just pre-flop, but on the flops and stuff like that, drawing to the nuts.
Right. Right. Yeah, and then also I one of the things that when I started learning this game years ago as well is ace deuce looks great, right? And then all of a sudden on the river, an ace or a deuce shows up. So a lot of it is really phenomenally to have basically a draw that you can't lose, right? So if there was a 3 on the board and you had ace deuce 4, well, it doesn't matter what card hits, you're always going to have the nuts down low, and that's extremely powerful, and obviously more powerful than just ace deuce, because ace deuce could get counterfeited easily.
That's right. And on a similar note to that would be in no limit hold'em, if you have aces, you're basically like occasionally it'll come like 5, 6, 7, 8, and you're going to think your aces are not such a great hand, but almost always your aces are going to be quite a powerful hand.
Right.
In Omaha, the hands are much more close to each other, so the way the equities work, or how much of an advantage your really good hand has against someone else's. So it has a lot more to do with the flop and the turn, and you don't want to get married to a really good pre-flop hand. Even the best hand in Omaha Hi-Lo is ace 3-2. Even with that sort of hand, there's plenty of boards where your hand is not going to be that amazing.
Right. It's amazing how many times ace deuce, ace 3 double suited, and then both of the other suits come out, and you just completely, 9, 10 queen, all black cards when you have, hearts and diamonds, and you're just like,
right,
yep. Ripping your hair out for that. Obviously, an incredible event, a long heads up battle, 6 hours back and forth. And at that stage of the game, both of you are obviously good players in this stuff, but with the blinds just ratcheting up over and over and over again, it really just kind of came down to the cards, right?
There still is plenty of play.
Was there plenty of play at that point still?
Yeah, but it just it definitely could have gone either way, and he played very well, my opponent. I started the heads up with a big chip lead, and he worked his way up to him having the chip lead, and it kind of went back and forth for a long time. Certainly, if the cards had been really bad for me, he would have won, and if the cards had been really good for me, I would have won. So yes, there is something to do with the cards, but I would say still, there's a lot of gameplay that went into it, but it was a very close battle.
There was a lot of, when it was written up right before the final 5 got back together, you were the chip leader, you had 40% of the chips in play. And so obviously you could put a lot of pressure on the players, especially if they were looking to ladder up. But the player who got a lot of attention on this obviously was Phil Hellmuth, 15-time bracelet winner, going for his 16th. It's already his 2nd time at a final table. Pretty impressive early on. I guess one question I have, and I've asked this a lot of players over the last 15, 20 years, is when you have someone like that at your final table, someone whose all eyes are on that person, because whatever it might be, whether it's Daniel Negreanu, whether it's Phil Ivey, whether it's Jason Mercier, whether it's Phil Hellmuth, is that helpful? Is that a distraction? Some people say it's helpful because then eyes are not always on you when you're the chip leader and they're looking that way. And so you can kind of do your thing. Is it a distraction? What was it like for you?
To me, it wasn't really that relevant. It's good for the media story and all that. And I'm a huge poker fan. If I wouldn't be playing, I would love those kind of stories. But when I am playing, I'm just, very much focused on the decisions at hand. And of course, Phil Hellmuth is a great player. So the fact that he's a great player at my table, that's meaningful. But the amount of attention that they get didn't really, bode much into my decision making.
Yeah. We're talking about Ari Engel, who just won his 2nd WSOP bracelet in the $10,000 Omaha Hi-Lo 8 or better championship for over $317,000. You talked about it, that when you have this big of a chip lead, you're able to put pressure on certain players, especially when you can recognize that they are trying to kind of ladder up, especially when Phil was really short short stacked. How do you recognize that? Because, you talk about a lot in No Limit Hold'em, that, okay, well, if I 3-bet here in position, then this person's going to really have to make a tough decision, especially when there's 2 shorter stack. How do you recognize when you feel like they're really just trying to ladder up? Obviously, if they say something, that's one thing, but what other things can people look for to try to recognize that's what's happening?
Yeah, much like many poker situations, I would say it's like some part science, some part art,
Right.
and that goes into this. In the science related part of the question, when you do have a very short stack, no one needs to say anything. If your opponents are smart players and good players, they have to care about moving up there. So there was a time maybe 10, 15 years ago where good players were saying, I'm playing only for the win. That time is no longer, that's not really a thing anymore. And if there is a really short stack, the people that are in the middle stacks and stuff like that, they have to play a more cautious game. So when you see those it's kind of paying attention to the chip stacks. And sure, if there's someone who's super reckless, you can adjust accordingly. But if people are playing smart and $10,000 buy-in for them to make it to the end, they're gonna mainly be smart players, calculated players, and so it just kind of goes without saying that they will have to play a more cautious kind of game. It's devastating for one of them to bust when there's a short stack around with 2-3 lines or whatever it is. So it still is a really tough thing how far to go, especially in a limit game where you can't push them all and you can't.
Right.
Certainly I could threaten like half their stack, and that would be really bad because they don't want to be tied with the short stack. But you can't push them in, and they can just call, and if you have a bad hand, you don't want to like blow up a bunch of chips trying to like put too much pressure on. So yeah, it's definitely, that's where kind of the art form comes in, how far to push it, and whether because just because you have the chip lead, it doesn't mean you have to kind of bully the table.
Right.
Like let's say I came in chip leader with 5 left. If I can just sit around and make sure I get to the top 2 or 3, that's a lot of money that
Right.
you jump.
Because you see it a lot, is that players who aren't experienced in that spot feel like it's almost like their obligation to play fast, right? I'm probably talking more no limit than Omaha, but they just feel like this obligation to 3-bet constantly. And then all of a sudden they do it 3 times in a row, and just unfortunately for them, the person who did raise really did have a hand. And next thing you know, they've just lost, 10, 15, 20 big blinds. And they went from clear chip leader to now middle of the pack, and, 1 bad hand, and now they're out, that kind of thing. So like you said, it's definitely a balancing act for players. And it really comes down, I think a lot of it comes down to the experience
Exactly.
to recognize that.
Yeah. I mean, I've played thousands and thousands of tournaments at this stage. So yeah, I've blown so many chip leads. I've gone too aggressively. I've gone too passively. I'm not saying I have it close to down, but I have definitely made all the mistakes, and you kind of have to be willing to make those mistakes in order to advance.
Yeah, but you didn't make a mistake against me at Foxwoods when you folded kings to my aces.
That's a career highlight moment. Yeah.
For those people who don't know, and it wasn't written up or anything like that, but on I don't know, I think it was a 4-bet. Ari raised, I re-raised all in, and Ari tanked forever and mucked. And he jumped when he saw that I had aces, and he said, I folded kings. And I was like, come on, Ari, come on. Don't give me that much credit, my friend.
Yeah. Crazy. I folded kings twice in my life pre-flop. And the other time, I don't know. And your time, there was a short stack that was all in. So I got to see her. And obviously that played a big role also, having that short second. But yeah, that's crazy to actually fold kings, especially, I'm kind of a crazy aggressive player. So yeah,
well, when you say, I thought it was like ace king or something along those lines, maybe jacks or whatever. I never thought it'd be kings. I did it in 05. It's been written up, and Hashim was at the table before he won, and Jason Lester was at the table, and a gentleman to my left, I still remember his name, Kevin McCarthy. If you're watching, Kevin, you know. So he and I were chatting the whole time, and anyway, long story short is I raised, and he 3-bet me. But remember, in 2005, people don't min raise, right? So let's just assume it was 60,000. He made it 120,000. And I'm just telling you, the alarm bells just went off. You know what I mean? Like, something is wrong. Something is really, really wrong. And he and I were chatting for like 30, 40 minutes. And all of a sudden, you've never seen, like, he just shut up. He wasn't saying a word. And something was just really wrong. And it went around the table. And I mean, everyone says I folded so quickly, but mind you, I'm thinking about it as it's going around the table. So it took like a minute and a half to come around the table. And I had already just made the decision. And I showed him. Before I folded, I said, look what I'm folding. Show the table you have aces. And I mucked, and he flipped it over. And people were just like, that's freaking nuts. And it was just, it's just a situation. And also, I will say that I would never have gotten, so deep in the main event if it wasn't for that. I would have lost like how much of my chips, So it's just one of those things. People, you look like an idiot if he folds over queens, right?
Oh yeah.
Your schedule at the World Series, how do you determine it? Because you don't just play $10,000 events. You play in the Millionaire Makers and the Colossus and all that stuff. How do you do it? Do you wake up and just play the no limit? And if you get knocked out, go to the mix? Or do you actually have a schedule? No, I'm going to play these, et cetera, et cetera.
No, I don't have any schedule. I do wake up and just look at that day's tournaments and see what I want to play. But it's not like I will necessarily play the first tournament of the day, and then if I get out, play the second. Sometimes I'll just wait until the later tournament, and I'm also playing, there's so many different tournaments all around town.
Sure.
So it's amazing. And I'm actually been playing quite a bit of mixed cash games also. And I also will play online. So it's great. It's like a poker player's dream to have so many awesome choices, and especially in this like post-COVID world where we weren't able to play live poker for so long. I've just kind of been waiting for this to come back and have all these amazing choices. And yeah, it's really it's a great time.
We'll talk about COVID in a second, but are there any events? I would assume the main event is one of them, but are there any other events during this summer that you don't have to look at the schedule? These 2 or 3 events I'm definitely playing. I can't wait for them to happen.
Yeah, pot limit Omaha Hi-Lo. And that almost goes like around town. So I probably will skip, like historically, I will skip like a higher buy-in tournament, let's say at the World Series, to play, some minor tournament, which a lot of other pros wouldn't, because I really enjoy playing that game. Or I'll even play like an online cash game on WSOP.com or whatever. So I really enjoy playing pot limit Omaha Hi-Lo. So when it's close, I lean towards playing that. So the bracelet events, for sure, pot limit Omaha Hi-Lo ones.
Yep.
Yeah. And now that I won an Omaha Hi-Lo tournament, it even more so. But even before.
Yeah, exactly. POI. Listen, player of the year, you win a bracelet early, especially a 10K. No ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to be at the top of the list, one of the top players early on. Is this something that would be special to you? And is this something that you would chase?
It would be very special to me. I don't really know the way the formula goes. That, has never crossed my mind in the past.
Right.
It kind of, my understanding is like, the Daniel Negreanu, Sean Deebs of the world that literally play everything Hellmuth. They're at such an advantage to winning that it makes it really hard for kind of, I'm not saying I'm an average Joe, but maybe like an average pro to win. But of course, yeah, getting a bracelet early does help. And I think they are giving away money this year for that. So that's nice. I mean, this is all, so fresh and new that
Right.
I kind of have to think about that and how much, because like you see this a lot where someone hits a big tournament score and they start playing tournaments or cash games that they shouldn't be playing, or because they had one score. So I don't want to be that kind of person.
Right.
At the same time, I've been around poker a while, and maybe I should take a shot of something that I have to balance out and kind of see where I'm at mentally. And for me, historically, I've in the past always chosen the easier route, which is the lower buy-ins, less stressful, where I have a bigger edge. But maybe this is the time where I should be, playing more of the 10,000 championship events and kind of going hard for player of the year. But I don't have an answer yet for that.
Yeah. Well, you have to, you have to get deep into it, a bunch of them. It can't be just one, but you never know if you get another one. Obviously, you have had such tremendous success. For players who don't know who Ari Engel's background, go online and look at it. One of the most successful online players in the history of online poker. Bodog Ari, he was an online and still is an online legend, and has played for years and just so well deserved. Just really quickly, and I'll let you go and really appreciate it. I know you're busy and you're still playing. COVID, how did it affect you? Or was it, I don't want to say a blessing, but were you able to play a lot online? Were you able to focus on your studies, or, how was it for you during COVID?
Well, yeah, it wasn't good for I wouldn't say it was good for me, but I think it was better for me than 99+% of the world. We're online, and kind of after when COVID started getting serious online poker, and it was great. I was able to play all the time. Like I was saying earlier, I played a lot of Omaha Hi-Lo. I played a bunch of tournaments at night, and kind of Omaha Hi-Lo cash during the day, and yeah, it was. I played more poker this past year and a half than I did normally, and normally I play a lot of poker. So poker, seeing my family and stuff like that, and being kind of a more normal human being and all the stuff that everyone else. But from a professional point of view, it was probably a good year for me.
Yeah. Ari, congratulations. So happy for you. We're rooting you on, and saw it in the morning that you had won and immediately contacted you. I'm so glad you took down your second bracelet. Thanks for coming on the show and taking a little bit of a break. And I will see you out there in a few days. I'm looking forward to it myself.
Oh, great. I was going to ask you when or if you were coming. So glad to hear that you're coming. I'll see you out here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Appreciate it. Ari Engel here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show. Stay tuned. We're going to have more winners and players and the media people talking about the 2021 World Series of Poker.